Welcome to Section 2, Monitoring the Forecast. When it comes to day-to-day weather information, you have a lot of options. Our website is a great place to start looking at weather information. We have graphics, we have the point-and-click forecast, very easy. You can get the National Weather Service forecast anywhere in the country. Just head to weather.gov. When you click on the map or enter your zip code, you can find the detailed point-and-click forecast. We update this forecast multiple times a day, and that's a forecast that's specific for wherever you click or wherever you put your zip code in. So that little green square on the map will be exactly where that forecast is valid. So if you click down in Canal Park or you click up at the airport, you're going to get a different forecast. Our Facebook page is a great place to follow. Make sure that you like our page so that you can get our weather updates there. If you're on Twitter, we post frequent updates on our Twitter account, so make sure you tweet us when you've got storm reports there. NOAA Weather Radio is a great way to monitor the daily weather information, and we'll talk about weather radio later on in this presentation. Local TV and radio stations can also be a great source for local weather data. And reliable apps and websites, and we'll talk about that word reliable a little bit sooner. However, when it comes to receiving warnings, there are some good options and there are better options. So some of these options, like local media, websites, certain apps, and outdoor warning sirens are good, but they might not wake you up. Your local TV meteorologist is a great source for weather information, but they can't wake you up in the middle of the night. You can tune to them when you're woken up, but they're not going to be able to help wake you up in the night. Similarly with outdoor warning sirens are really made to warn you if you're outside. If you're inside in your home, especially if there's a really loud thunderstorm going on, you might not hear them, so don't rely on them for a way to get warning information. Some good choices: NOAA Weather Radio, especially those with the public alert logo, will wake you up in the middle of the night and go off when a warning is issued for your area. Those reliable apps with push alerts are also a good option, and we'll talk about that word reliable in a few slides. Your county might also have an option for emergency notifications. They might call it Code Red or Everbridge or some other name, but a lot of these counties and tribes in northeast Minnesota, northwest Wisconsin, now have ways to give you direct weather information by phone, by text message. Some of them call you. It's a really cool tool. Some of them will send an email, but I definitely recommend checking out your county's website. Usually it's under the Sheriff's Office or the Emergency Management Office. Warning emergency alerts are also a great way to get tornado warnings and some flash flood warnings. We'll talk about that later. And there's also commercial services. Just search on your favorite search engine for weather alerts on your phone or a text message. There's a lot of services out there. Finally, the best option is going to be 2 or more of those good options below. You want to have a backup. Sometimes your phone may not work. Sometimes you might have forgotten to put batteries in your weather radio. It's a good option to always have 2 or more ways to get weather alerts. NOAA Weather Radio is one of those great options for weather alerts. It's a national network of over 1,000 radio stations that cover the United States. Provides continuous weather broadcast, warnings, watches, forecasts, and information, and even other emergency information. It's extremely reliable. The radios are really affordable. And the radios that have that public alert logo on it signify that they have the best features. So if you're going to get something to wake you up in the middle of the night, make sure it has that public alert logo. That usually means that it can process same alerts. So you can say, hey, I'm in southeast St. Louis County, and it will only go off if you're in that part of the county. A lot of those radios also have battery backups, which is a great feature to have. And they could save your life. This is a map of all the transmitters that serve northeast Minnesota and northwest Wisconsin. And these are the coverage maps for those stations. The area in white is where we have great coverage. So you can see even up in the boundary waters, even across Lake Superior, you can get NOAA weather radio coverage in places that a cell phone just is not going to get coverage. So, do you own a weather radio? Let us know. Take the poll. If you're watching on YouTube, I think it should pop up at the top right. Look for that little I symbol. Click that to vote and let us know. Do you own a weather radio? Wireless emergency alerts. These are direct messages that can send to your phone. For our area, it's going to be tornado warnings, some flash flood warnings, and snow squall warnings. There's a few other alerts that will come to your phone, but maybe if you're visiting an area such as a hurricane-prone area, you'll get the hurricane alerts that come on there. But generally for us, tornadoes, flash flood, and snow squalls is what we'll get. Almost all modern smartphones are going to be capable of showing these alerts, so you probably already have a phone or device that can get these alerts. They're geographically targeted, so only the cell towers that are within the warning box will get these alerts. And it should have already been turned on, but you can check your phone. Usually it's under the settings, notifications, and it's called something like emergency alerts or government alerts. Depending on your model, it might be in a different place. So if you want to check it out, Google WEA along with the name of your smartphone model, and you should be able to figure out how to turn them on. These messages are just canned, so if you get a tornado warning, it's just going to say tornado warning this area. It's not going to have specifics about the name, the direction of the tornado, whether it's still on the ground or not. But it's a great way to get an alert to wake you up and say, hey, you got to check this out. Again, your county might have a service that can do this for you too. Some services can even give you a phone call in the middle of the night to let you know a warning has been issued. This varies by county. Tribal nations also offer this as well, some of them. So see your county's website for details. In most cases, it's going to be free, and the service will vary depending on what your county has selected. Reliable apps and websites. So there's no official NOAA or National Weather Service app to get weather alerts. We recommend that you use an app from a well-known company. If you don't know, just check reviews, ask around, see what your friends and family use. You want to use something that you can trust to wake you up in the middle of the night. For alerts, it needs to have push alerts or enable notifications so that it can send an alert. And note that most apps can't override that do not disturb mode on your phone. So usually like the little mood mode or silent mode. Sometimes the apps can't override that. On iPhone, they need something called the critical alert feature, and only those can override the do not disturb. On Android, though, you can usually set it to be, set your phone to override it. Again, check with the app, ask what they offer, ask if their phone can wake you up in the middle of the night, and they can usually help you. When it comes to staying informed about severe weather, there's the big picture of how we get the outlooks, watches, and warnings to you and what they mean. So in the 1 to 3+ days ahead of a storm, we will issue a hazardous weather outlook from our office, and the Storm Prediction Center will also issue a convective outlook. These outlooks mean stay tuned. Start to think about how severe weather risk might impact you. Hours ahead of severe weather, the Weather Service and Storm Prediction Center will coordinate on a watch. This means have a plan to take shelter. Maybe possibly change your plans, but the ingredients are definitely in place and severe weather is possible. Minutes ahead of a storm, the Weather Service in Duluth will issue a warning. A warning means take shelter now. It's time to act. The Storm Prediction Center issues outlooks on a 1 through 5 scale, 1 being marginal severe storm risk, 5 meaning high risk. To put this in perspective, I'll show you how often we get these in our neck of the woods. So for Northeast Minnesota, Northwest Wisconsin, generally we see 60 to 80 days where we have thunderstorms each year. Now this varies. In a place like Brainerd, it's going to be on the high end. In a place like Grand Marais, it's going to be a little bit lower. But these numbers are generally true for most of the area. There's a marginal severe storm risk, about 10 to 25 days a year. Marginal risk means there's an isolated severe storm possible, but generally they're going to be limited in duration, limited in intensity, and pretty isolated in nature. A slight risk should usually get your attention. We get about 6 to 15 of those a year, and those are going to be the days typically that most people see the worst storms. These are going to be scattered severe storms possible. The enhanced risk is an even higher risk. That means numerous severe storms are possible, and it's typically more of a widespread threat or a more persistent threat. If your enhanced risk is out, you should really consider changing your plans. The moderate and the high risks are exceedingly rare for our part of the country. A moderate risk means that widespread severe storms are likely. We're talking widespread, long-lived, intense storms that can produce a lot of damage across a really big area. We've only had about 10 in the last 18 years for Northeast Minnesota and Northwest Wisconsin. And the high risk is exceedingly rare. A high risk means widespread severe storms are expected. This is issued very rarely, but it essentially means that we are almost certain that there's going to be long-lived, very widespread, and very intense severe storms. These are the kind of days where you need to change your plans. You shouldn't go hiking on a day that we've got a high risk out. So you really need to pay attention to the weather on those days. This is an example of what that outlook looks like. We use the same terminology in our hazardous weather outlook that I'll talk about in a second, but here's what the map looks like, and their website is spc.noaa.gov. Again, they issue kind of on a 1 through 5 scale, 1 being that marginal risk in that dark green shade, and red on this map being the moderate risk, which is kind of the highest risk that we're usually going to see. That level 5 high risk, the pink color, is exceedingly rare. If we see this up in the upper Midwest, it means it's going to be a very dangerous day. Locally, we issue something else called the Hazardous Weather Outlook. This is kind of an all hazards, all year-round weather information product that talks about hazardous weather expected in the next 7 days. We update it at least twice per day, and as we issue it, it usually starts out pretty broad. We might say a couple of days ahead of storms that, there's going to be a chance for storms. As you get closer, we tend to make our wording a little bit more specific. We'll say something like there's a slight risk for strong severe storms. Typically, the words we use are the same that the Storm Prediction Center will have in their outlook. And as we get closer to the day of a storm, we'll have, as our confidence increases, the wording will increase as well. We'll use words like tornadoes, large hail, strong winds, and talk about the location and timing for storms. This is issued at least twice a day, and it's on our website and even on the NOAA weather radio. This will play about at least a few times every hour on the radio broadcast. Watches. Watches are issued by the National Weather Service for the cases of severe thunderstorm and tornado watches. They're in coordination with the SPC, and then we might issue flash flood watches on our own. A watch means the ingredients are in place. Storms may have already developed, or we're waiting for storms to develop, but we think they're about to start, and they're usually issued hours ahead of time for storms. Generally, they're issued for a broad area, 15 to 30 counties, and the action here is get ready. Watch out, the ingredients are in place, storms may have already started, but we're confident enough that storms are probably going to happen over the watched area. Finally, warnings. Warnings mean that the severe weather is imminent or occurring already. It's usually issued for about 15 to 60 minutes ahead of time, and it's issued for a small subset of a county. In this case, for this example here, you can see parts of Pine County into parts of Burnett County are issued in the warning, but not all of the county is issued. We just try to subset exactly where that storm threat might be. The warnings will have specific information about the threats, the hazard, the source of that hazard information, and any impacts that we're expecting. So what kind of warnings do we issue? Talked about warnings a few times already. So what do we mean by that? There's the severe thunderstorm warning, which is overwhelmingly the most common type of warning that we issue. Severe thunderstorm warning is issued for a storm that's capable of producing winds 58 miles per hour or greater and hail of 1 inch or about the size of a quarter or greater. We issue a lot of those each year, about 120 to 150. Tornado warnings are rare. We issue those for a spotter report or a radar indication of a tornado, and about 5 to 10 of those per year. Sometimes, though, we don't issue any. Flash flood warnings are also rare. We typically issue a handful a year, around 5 to 10, and this is for a life and property threat of flooding within the next 6 hours. This is the type of flooding that's going to happen fast. It especially in our neck of the woods occurs at night when it can be extremely dangerous. So it usually means flash flooding means flooding that's going to be happening very soon. This is a map of all of our warning polygons from the last year. Those yellow boxes are the severe thunderstorm warnings. Red is tornado. Flash flood warnings are in the green color. And also we have that special marine warning, which is kind of like a severe thunderstorm warning, but it's issued for the lake. If you go out on Lake Superior, you should make sure you bring a weather radio and listen. If we issue a special marine warning, it means that we're expecting a storm with gale force winds for less than 2 hours, or possibly some penny-sized hail or water spouts. Generally, you don't want to be out in a boat when there's a special marine warning issued. The point of this map, severe weather can happen anywhere. Yes, not everybody sees a severe storm every year, but most of the time, most everyone is going to see a severe storm. Emergencies. In the very rare cases where a forecaster is concerned about a loss of life, they may issue a special warning called an emergency. The wording in the warning and the wireless emergency alert will be upgraded. The most likely for our area and something that we've issued in the past is a flash flood emergency. When we issue a warning and we call it an emergency, we think that there is a dire threat to life and property, and that if people aren't woken up at the moment, they will not get the alert. When I said that the wireless emergency alerts only come through for some flash flood warnings, we have to think that the threat is considerable or catastrophic, an emergency, in order for it to go through. If you get a flash flood warning on your phone, we think that it's going to be a really bad flash flood, and you should take the information seriously. Your reports matter because they go into our warning decisions. This is an example of storms on July 19th, 2019 that went through Pine City. Only because we had the reports were we able to have high confidence in the warnings that we were issuing, and we were able to increase the size of the hail in the warning, as well as the winds. So in this case, we had source, train spotter. Golf ball size hail was reported just east of Pine City. These reports really help the people in the next community downstream and also the other people that are communicating this on TV and radio to take the warnings seriously. They let people know that, yeah, this is a really serious storm. Take shelter now. So let's review that watch and the warning because this gets confused a lot. A watch means the ingredients are in place. Think of it like cupcakes. If you've got all the ingredients out, but they're not made yet, cupcakes are possible. The watch is in effect. Ingredients are in place. A warning means take action now. The threat is imminent or already occurring. In the case of cupcakes, that would mean there's already cupcakes made. That's it for the end of section 2. You made it. The code word for this section is going to be forecast. Again, the code word is forecast. F-O-R-E-C-A-S-T. Forecast. Write that down and head on to the next section, section 3, Thunderstorms 101. Thunderstorms 101 is going to be the longest section, but you'll get through it. I hope you find it enjoyable.